Hi, my name is Gibson, and I'm the creator of the Personal Development School. This is your daily breakthrough video. And in this video, I really want to discuss this idea that all men can't be trusted. Now, I can definitely do a follow-up version of this with all women and dynamics like that. But I really wanted to highlight here just like an open discussion about this belief as a whole and what it means and how it affects us and what we can do if this is something that we want to overcome. So I'm assuming that if you're here right now on this video, this is something that you may have already believed and worked through, or potentially find yourself still believing. And I definitely understand that this is something that comes from pain, right? Like you don't have this belief unless you got there from some kind of betrayal, some sort of painful programming, some sort of painful set of experiences that took place, perhaps in your childhood, your upbringing, past relationships, your adult life, messaging you got, things you saw, you get here from pain. And as a prior FA who's done the work, I was there myself once in my teenage years and got a lot of messaging about this from so many different areas of life and had some experiences that led me to believe this as well. But this is also something that I really took the time as a person to work through and has benefited my life and relationships tremendously. And it's something that I want to have a dialogue here today about and encourage everybody to work through this. If you have some kind of belief that says all X, Y, Z, men, women, whoever can't be trusted, you've boxed yourself in by putting other people in a box. And it's important that we acknowledge this. So I remember first starting and doing the work on this, and I want to tell you a story of when I saw myself working through this belief years ago, and then sort of having context and seeing what it felt like to be on the other side of this. I remember going to lunch with a friend of mine, and we were catching up. And, I used to have these really painful beliefs and had done a lot of reprogramming work and questioning a lot of the beliefs and programs that I had as a person because of different painful events that I was exposed to. And I remember being with my friend at lunch, and this man went to hold the door for us as we were walking in. And from my perspective, he was just being polite and, kind. And I remember her looking at me and going, oh, and as if like he was doing something to be, harmful or invasive or something of that sort. And I saw in that moment, like, that guy's just holding the door, but she's the one in pain. And it reminded me of like, wow, all the times that I had so many painful events take place in my romantic relationships because as an FA with really big trust issues during those times, it was so hard to love and so hard to trust and so hard to feel like I could settle into relationships and be comfortable and be myself and be vulnerable and all these different things. And so there's so much polarization in society nowadays, and for so many different reasons. And this is not me saying that we shouldn't be like cautious of strangers or conscientious about red flags we see in relationships with other people. But what we don't want to do is put people in a box and hurt ourselves and that person and our ability to have healthy relationships according to that box. I just wanted to come on here and let you know that we are doing a all access pass membership sale for our lifetime membership to the Personal Development School. So this will be 40% off. It gives you access to literally everything on our platform for life. So I hope you jump on board and join me. And basically you get access to all of the courses we have at the Personal Development School, as well as the ones we continue to add each and every month, as well as the personalized programs for each attachment style on their path to becoming securely attached, along with the 4 live webinars I do every single week with our students and our community. And we also have daily community events with different facilitators. So guided morning and evening routines, meditations, deep conversation and connection questions, online dating tips and tools, so many different community events that are guided by our trained facilitators. And you get access to literally all of this for life. And again, we're running it for 40% off right now. If you want to jump on board, join me, check it out. Also, if you are an existing student at the Personal Development School, not only do you get access to this sale, but also a small discounted rate for any past payments you've made for being a student already. So you can upgrade your lifetime membership, and you can just inquire and get all that information by emailing info@personaldevelopmentschool.com. So I want to take you through a bit of an exercise here in terms of like just looking at this belief, if this is something that you find yourself struggling with. And I want you to ask yourself first, What has this belief cost you in your life? And for me, when I was working on this belief, I saw that it cost me things like a lack of presence in relationships, a lack of being able to really be myself and like open up and be vulnerable, a massive fear really around being myself, a fear of being seen, a fear of ever sharing my flaws. And what that does is if I feel like I can't ever share my flaws with somebody, I actually reinforce this concept of being conditionally loved, because so much of what moves the needle towards unconditional love or more unconditional love in our relationships is that we allow ourselves to show our flaws and our imperfections and our, you know, human moments, and we see that, hey, somebody accepts us anyways, somebody still wants to be with you, somebody still wants to show up and care for you. And there's something really beautiful and comforting about that. But if I never even allow myself to show that, I'll never give myself the opportunity to feel that or to receive that from somebody else either. Also, this assumption that I'll be hurt or betrayed all the time really cost me my inability to feel like I could settle into relationships, like I could actually, be comfortable. And once we get past the honeymoon stage, I felt like, oh, the relationship's ending. Like something bad's going to happen now because this person's going to go be interested in somebody else, or they're going to lose interest, or, all these different dynamics. And it was like, hey, love is so much more than just this like infatuation and a roller coaster in relationships. And so, having this fear that I can't trust really stopped me from like getting past the power struggle stage in relationships. So I just want to hear you, or you can put in the comments. I would love to hear the answers in the comments, but even if you just take the time and like pause the video and write down, like, what does this belief cost me? And what does it really feel like to live with this belief on a daily basis? How does it affect not just your romantic relationships, but just your dating life as a whole, your friendships, your family relationships, your judgments or thoughts throughout the day that then cause you to have neurochemical reactions or frustration or fear or cortisol or, these responses in your physiology and your body. So really just looking at that first is important. And then secondly, what would it look like to let this go? Okay. So I think we think, and because of other beliefs, we think, oh, if I let this go, I'm going to have the wool pulled over my eyes. I'm going to be foolish. I'm going to be fooled. I'm going to be, all these different things, but that's not true. You still can not be anchored in this belief, this lens all the time that all men are going to betray you or all men can't be trusted. But you can still speak up if you see a red flag. You can still set boundaries as a person. You can walk away from things that aren't working. But then when there is the potential for things to work out, you'll feel free and you'll feel safe and you'll feel open. And usually when you do feel more trust, you'll also feel like your voice can be heard. So you'll feel more comfortable sharing your feelings, your needs. And something that's so interesting about trust in our relationship dynamics is that when we don't trust, we often don't trust that we can, like I said earlier, be vulnerable and share what our feelings and needs are, share what our pain points are. And then what happens is we don't give somebody the appropriate information to know us and to properly take our fears into consideration. Like if somebody doesn't know that I have a sensitivity to something, then they can't be sensitive about that sensitivity I have because I'm not giving them the information. And so what happens is, like, let's say, for example, that you have a fear of abandonment. And sometimes when there's distance in a relationship, you need reassurance. And if you're bonding with somebody and you're 6 months into the relationship and you're trying to have this conversation, but you're like, no, I can't share that because I can't trust and it's too vulnerable, then you may see that when there's distance in a relationship and maybe your partner's away or the person you're dating is on a trip or something like that, you feel like, oh, they're not taking me into consideration. They're not reaching out and trying to be, check in with me and stay connected. And that may be because they have no idea that that's how you feel. And so they're just operating from their programming, or maybe you give them the idea that you're so independent all the time. So they think you're good. And then what happens is, the sad part about that is that it then reinforces the whole concept or idea to begin with. It then seems to go, oh, see, they don't consider me. See, I can't trust them. And because you're not giving the information that you need to a partner to properly be considered, it just seems to reinforce this entire cycle. And this is where we really get stuck, right? This is where we seem to, the belief gets reinforced and it becomes harder and harder to break free from. But again, who hurts from that, right? Yes, the other person hurts if you push them away, but you hurt the most. And it's so important to pay attention to that. So looking at like, what would it look like to let this belief go? I could feel free. I could open up more. I could communicate better. I could feel more comfortable communicating, but I can still have boundaries. I can still speak up for things that aren't okay. And I can still walk away from something if it's not working. If somebody does do something that's really breaking of trust, it doesn't mean you're chained to a relationship. In fact, it means that you probably have stronger self-esteem and belief in other relationships enough to not be in this lack space of like, oh, I can't find somebody again, so I have to stay with this person. So just looking at that honestly from a conscious perspective is so valuable. Now, what do we do about it? How do we break free from these beliefs? How do we reprogram them if we actually want to let them go? Well, I have a whole course about this. I'm going to take you through steps here in a second, but if you want to do a really deep dive, you can check this course out for free for 7 days. And it's a course all about reprogramming our internal trust baseline, our baseline for what trust is. And it takes you through a few key factors, and I'm going to share them with you right now at a high level. The first thing is so much of trust, I call it like the 3 C's, okay? It's consideration, consistency, and congruency. Okay. So if I say to you, hey, come over to my house and I'll see you there at 7:30. And then every time you come, I'm never there till 8:30 or 8:45. You're not gonna, that's not congruent. What I say and what my actions are don't line up. And that's a breach of trust. So you can see how me saying something and my actions being in alignment with it would produce extra trust, right? Congruency. Consideration. If I know you have a wound about something and then I just like override it or don't care about it, despite you vulnerably sharing that with me, you don't feel considered and then you don't trust me. But if I know you have a wound about something and when we're in a situation that could trigger that wound, I go out of my way to just be mindful about it. I check in with you. I see what you want to do. I let you lead the way on stuff because I know it's a sensitive area for you. You feel like you're considered. And that's a huge part of trust. And then consistency, right? If I'm like, hey, I'm dating somebody and I'm like, oh, let's go on a date this weekend. And then I'm really inconsistent about following through or texting or showing up, then that can be a breach of trust as well, right? So we see these big things. Believe it or not, the most powerful way of repairing broken trust is to repair it in the relationship to yourself first. And here's what happens when trust is broken by people around us. Okay. So when you previously have trust wounds because of things you're exposed to, what happens is they create imprints at the subconscious level. And then this becomes your subconscious comfort zone. And whatever is our subconscious comfort zone becomes the relationship to ourselves. So what I mean by this is, let's say that your boundaries are violated a lot as a kid. Okay. That's going to be a trust issue, right? So that's like a lack of consideration, a lack of consistency, a lack of congruency, all sorts of things, most likely. So that's going to create trust wounds. But then guess what happens? That imprints you. And then you think, oh, my boundaries are going to be violated anyway. So we end up violating our own boundaries to gain approval, to stay safe, to avoid conflict, whatever it might be, because that's programmed into us. That's been imprinted on our subconscious mind. So what this really means is that until we learn to show up for our own consistency, congruency, and consideration when we make choices and decisions, our trust wounds are going to stay alive because they're going to stay alive in the relationship to ourselves. So reprogramming that by showing up to care for ourselves, to consider our own feelings and needs, to communicate about them, to share about them, is so powerful when it comes to repairing broken trust, as well as reprogramming beliefs, challenging these ideas, challenging these concepts that say, all men this, all women that, all people this, all, that hurts ourselves more than it hurts anybody else. And then it creates all this separation between ourselves and others instead of like collaboration, communication, teaming up. And it's such an important part of feeling like we can feel safe in relationships, feeling like, people are going to be imperfect. And that's important. The human condition is imperfect, right? And so we're going to still have times where somebody forgets, somebody makes a mistake, somebody does the wrong thing. But when we can show up and we can communicate through it, we can talk about it, we can discuss it, we can validate each other's feelings and perspectives, and then do the work to repair whatever that problem was. We can build deeper and deeper roots for trust, and we can continue to grow together in our relationships with other people. And so that's such an important thing to give ourselves the opportunity to experience. So hopefully this makes a lot of sense. I thought this is an important topic. I would love to hear comments below, questions questions, any trust wounds that you may be experiencing. And thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to this channel if you haven't yet, and you hang out here and watch the videos. I would really appreciate it. And I will see you in tomorrow's video.